So, your favourite card game is doing a genre you don't like, and you want a man like me on the internet to get angry with you. Well, truth be told, I'm probably not. Some of you might actually be really pissed off with what I'm about to say. If I sound sick, it's because I had COVID last week. I have lost basically 4 or 5 days of my life, and I still feel dizzy when I'm walking around, so it's not great. Barcelona was fun though, so guess I got that going for me. As part of Magic's 30th anniversary of its first ever preview at Gen Con, this weekend at Gen Con, they revealed the next 3 years of the roadmap of Magic. Mark Rosewater even remarked that it's quite unusual to do. They've never done more than a year of this before. And if I'm honest, I hope they don't do this too often. With Magic's really heavy and ongoing release cycle, the perpetual hype train that currently just does not fucking stop. With that, plus 3 years of info, it's just a lot. I think it's a lot to take in. But that said, I thought a lot of it, if not the majority of it, was very exciting. There is a lot to unpack, a lot of videos. I was going to do a whole video just unpacking the whole thing, but ultimately that's just me regurgitating what they tell us in the thing with some opinions added. So instead I'm going to spread it out into different videos on different topics. Today I'm talking about genre in Magic and how Magic explores it. If you didn't know, they announced Outlaws at Thunder Junction, which is going to be a set that is basically the Cowboy set we've memed about for the best part of 5 years. Cowboy Jace is coming, and he's a bad boy. This has pissed a lot of people off though. We joked about it and we joked about it and we joked about it. We practically willed the fucking thing into existence. And now people are sad, upset, angry. This isn't a Morbius. We didn't trick Wizards into doing this to then go, actually, we didn't want it. I think a lot of people do want this. But there are some people who are always angry at everything. So today's video is about that. The genre and the ever-angry Magic fan, of which I'm in that genre of Magic fan in many ways. But before we begin, if you want to get 5% off your order and to help support the show, use the code KENOBI and check out the link in the description below to coolstuffinc.com. Get 5% off your order for singles or sealed product, and it helps to support the channel. And I'm also giving away some free stuff and selling some bits and bobs on Whatnot. I do it multiple times a month. I'm doing it for the next 3 weeks, Tuesday, and Thursday. So if you want to get involved with that, use the link in the description below. Get £10 off your first purchase on Whatnot. It's basically eBay meets Twitch. And if you're on the live app as well, you'll be within a chance to win some boosties. I'll be giving away booster packs, I'll be chatting about Magic. It's all a pretty fun time if you ask me. You might even be able to win a Ricky Martin trading card, a small shard of the man's soul that I've captured through the power of what magic is used to capture souls. I should know if I keep using it. Either way, link in the description below. Check out my Whatnot shows. Helps to support the channel. So Outlaw at Thunder Junction is the Cowboy set. It's the Western set. It is a multiversal villain collective. We see Oko, Rakdos, what I think might be Tiny Bones, Jace, Frasca, and maybe Vivian. I'm not sure who this one actually is. The Dirty Dozen or Magnificent Seven, but they can't say that because those might be trademarked. It's a Western genre exploration of a frontier fantasy setting. They've mentioned they've brought in cultural consultants as well because the frontier, the West, it has a lot of issues with, well, the reality of the history is that people murdered indigenous people and weren't that great to one another, to put it lightly. But it is the most popular genre of, or was, should I say, the most popular genre of movie and fiction in America for the best part of the 20th century. In some ways, the absolute fucking pandemonium that we had with superhero fiction in the last 10 years kind of is a fast-tracked version of what happened with the Cowboy movie in America. Whilst it's fallen out of vogue, there are still people that absolutely vibe with it. The Western as a genre can allow you to explore ideas of tradition, modernity versus tradition, the expanse of civilization and society, its impact on the natural world and the indigenous people there already, lawlessness or the bringing of law to an unlawful land. There are so many different things that come in and are part of that genre that it's quite a rich vein to mine. And personally, I don't find it very interesting at all. I'm a British man who likes science fiction and fantasy, so the Old West has always been something that has bored the ever-loving shit out of me since forever. I've actually watched a load of different cowboy movies over the years trying to be more interested in it, and I just haven't. The most interesting one, I guess, in recent times, not a movie, but Red Dead Redemption. I love that game. Absolutely love Red Dead Redemption 1. Never finished 2. It was just too slow flow going. But people are upset to see magic engaging with this genre of fiction that they don't think is magical enough, even though Weird West or Fantasy Western is a growing or emerging subgenre of tabletop RPGs at the moment. There are multiple examples of it in the skirmish game and the tabletop gaming world. But this doesn't look like magic to me, says somebody who probably said the same thing when they did Streets of New Capenna or Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. The truth be told, Magic as a property, as a game, is very, very good at exploring genre. And by very, very good, I mean, there are issues with the fact that it doesn't actually perhaps deep dive into some of the more difficult topics that I've just broached, or say broached, I've mentioned and moved on from because it's not my area of expertise. But for example, the interaction between the Western genre of fiction and how it applies to and utilizes the indigenous peoples of the countries in which the West, or if we talk about New Zealand and Australia, people colonized and damaged. Those things may never really get explored because we're talking about a game. But if we step away from that for a second, which is a whole minefield in itself, I think Magic kind of has to acknowledge and work on in many ways. And we see it with Wizards employing lots of Latin American designers, world consultants, artists to work on Ixalan, for example. They are aware of this. They are trying to work with what they're given. But in terms of going to a genre and using its tropes to not only tell stories, but to evoke a feeling and a gameplay setting that feels within that genre, Magic's pretty damn good at it because the lore system is so good. Innistrad is a fantastic example of this, where they decided to go for the European or the Gothic horror, and they used Magic as a lens through which to explore that. It's tropey, it's kitschy in places, and that's fine. And we see that over and over. Magic's done this since the dawn of its creation. One of the first expansions to Magic was Arabian Nights, for example. Again, there are issues with cultural appropriation and how it didn't have cultural consultants on side and stuff. That's a whole thing it has to wrestle with. But it's an example of Magic engaging with things outside of its own canon. And if we still speak within canon and within storyline of Magic, Magic often jumps from thematic, theme of the week style settings over and over, from things like Innistrad to Ravnica itself being magic, but what if in city, to Amonkhet with the Egyptians in the deserts, to Kaldheim with the Nordic wastes and that culture too. Kamigawa did it with Japan previously, and they went back and rectified some of the errors they felt they made when they went back to the future version of that, the time-jumped version with Neon Dynasty. Streets of New Capenna dealt with mobs and crimes and inner city crime, like it's the gangster movie of Magic. Lorwyn was originally folklore and folk tale, where they later re-explored that with Thrones of Eldraine by going deep into fairy tale and Arthurian legend. There are countless examples of this. Every Magic set has its elevator pitch. It's like Magic the Gathering goes to Egypt, or ancient Egypt, should I say. This is not uncommon. They've done it many, many times before, and they've succeeded more than they failed. I think people arguing now that Magic is just going through its checklist. It's now doing not only the Cowboy thing at the moment, we've also got Murder at Karlov Manor, which is the murder mystery set, which is using Ravnica as the backdrop. Something that Rosewater's talked about is using the old planes that we know and love as backdrops for more top-down focused stories, which is something that I've been begging for years, saying they should use the existing planes to explore wider story ideas, like, I say wider, I'm using the wrong terminology here, tighter, smaller story ideas on the wider backdrop of the plane, and they're finally doing it. The new Ixalan is the travel to the center of the Earth. It's the race to the center of the Earth, but told through or with the backdrop of Ixalan. People are arguing they're just ticking off boxes of going through different genres or whatever, and they kind of are. That's not a criticism in and of itself. They're aware they're doing this. Media literacy is at an all-time low, where people aren't really familiar with the genres of the media they're engaging with. A lot of people... I watched a YouTube video this morning of someone bitching and moaning that Magic was dead, and they said, in reference to murder mystery, that they referenced escape rooms, because it was like the only cultural touch point they knew. Like Knives Out and Glass Onion are right fucking there, and they thought about escape rooms, the thing right in front of their nose that they did on the weekend with their friends. And because of this, and I mock this having been an English major, I guess, and a failed English teacher, but I do think it leads to people thinking they're creating criticisms for discussion, when in reality they're just recognizing patterns. Let me give an example through Star Wars, which is something I very much avoid talking about in videos and online because people are just fucking the worst about it. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but here we go. Force Awakens follows similar, if not the same plot points, beat for beat, as A New Hope. Yes, correct. That is an observation. That is you seeing a pattern. Now, if I was an English teacher asking you to expand your essay a little bit, I'd ask you to explain why. Why does that make you feel the way that you do? If you were to say it's lazy, then that's a whole point we need to unpack. What is lazy about that? Why can they not use the retread of old plot points to draw parallels, to invite comparison, to bring about nostalgia, or to make it feel like it fits an existing archetype or canon? If it's because you felt that you wanted more, you thought that Star Wars could have more than just retreads of the original movies, then I think that's a valid point. We can unpack that further. But you see what I mean? We never got to this point. Everyone just echoed the very first bit before we said why twice. They asked and said, but look, the plot points are the same. Yes, magic is doing genres. Yes, there is a checklist of stuff that I bet the designers and developers, and I haven't had this conversation with them, but Mark, Gavin, Corey, whoever it is in charge of the sets going forward for the next few years, I bet they all want to tick off things that they want to do because they love that shit. If I was there and I had some creative control, they would have done space opera a long fucking time ago. And that's coming, by the way. There's a space opera set coming up. We don't even have a name for it yet. They'll just explain that they're going to do space opera as a genre. They're going to explore that genre through magic. And I think magic is good enough to do that. So I bring you back to the original point. It's not a criticism to point out that they're doing genre. Why does doing genre piss you off? Now, there are valid criticisms to be had. For example, it might just be that you think some genres are absolutely out of bounds. And for some reason, Cowboys is one of them. Although we just had Cyber Ninja, Kamigawa, Samurai, hot dogs, and Tommy guns and hearses, and some of that people did observe what felt like it was a bit too much. But while we're on the other side of it now, it doesn't feel that bad. Like, who fucking cares? We can't keep rabbiting the same fucking points when they get disproven or they just don't fucking matter. Like, magic is still here. It's still good to play. It's still fun. And the use of a hearse, the use of a fucking a DJ using wooden DJ decks, some of it felt weird at the time, but it didn't matter. Ultimately, did it? We moved on. Things were good. This is not to say that all criticism needs to be removed from the picture. There are issues still inherent in Magic right now. For example, should we really have a Modern Horizons 3 artificially rotate modern again? Should Commander Precons really be £90 fucking pounds? Wizards of the Coast don't always get it right, but their world building and game design is not stumbling and fucking up at every opportunity like some critics would like you to believe on this platform, on YouTube especially. I saw some fucking brain dead videos over the last couple of days, and how people will often claim it is. I believe that Magic the Gathering is equipped to explore tropey, silly ideas and serious ideas within these genres very well. I did a whole fucking video talking about how I was excited for folk horror in Midnight Hunt, and then the set just didn't deliver. The set was like a werewolf party with a sundial. They don't always get it right, okay? But saying this ain't magic, but saying that this is magic, that doesn't really sit well with me. That feels dishonest. It feels upset that magic has changed from what it once was when you got into magic. Now, there is a point that in all of this that I see is very valid, that I don't necessarily hold, but I get. Like, the cowboy stuff and the space race and the death race and all this stuff that's coming up here. There's a race in a car across 3 planes. Honestly, I think it sounds fucking wild and cool, but I get why people might find that a little bit jarring as such. But all of that coming alongside Assassin's Creed, a Ubisoft adventure, I get some of the frustration and some of the upset. Ubisoft's adventure, or whatever the fuck Ubisoft want to call it, probably fits better than, say, Fallout. Fallout is coming to Magic. To say this is the jumping the shark moment, I feel is incredibly dishonest or incredibly blind. Like, where have you been? They ripped the band-aid off with Fortnite 6 months into the integration of Universes Beyond. I recoiled in my chair and sunk to the floor when they did it because I couldn't believe they did it so quickly, but they did. And you know what? I'm glad they did it. But to say that Fallout is the fucking the current pinnacle, the peak of like dissonant IPs mashing together when we had a dance battle in Fortnite last year. You are being willfully ignorant if you were saying that. But I also get that when you're seeing things like the Brotherhood of Steel, Space Marines, Rick Sanchez, all sorts of stuff showing up in your game, that being "this is not Magic" makes a lot more sense to me. I think that comment is completely valid. I think Magic can both have its own visual identity and storytelling and do this whole thing together, but you may not feel that way. That's a shame, really. I don't want people to walk away from the game. I'm probably going to do a whole video on this, but I just want to talk about how I think Magic has the game system that is good enough to hold up and support the examination of other worlds and how they would function mechanically within Magic. It's really cool and interesting and fun to play with the Warhammer decks and see how they mechanically function, how the Tyranids are different to the Necrons, for example. I think Magic's rule system is robust and strong enough, and the designers of the game are good enough the vast majority of the time to show us that, both with the Warhammer decks already, the Doctor Who decks that are coming, and Fallout next year. There is this argument that Wizards are not proud enough or keen enough to support their own intellectual property, that they're not confident enough in it, should I say, and that's why they keep leaning on these other IPs. That's not the case. It's because these other IPs are incredibly financially lucrative. There is a lot of money being exchanged hands here. But to say they aren't confident in their own IPs when they've just finished off a huge multi-year build-up to a massive war across the multiverse, and now they're setting up another 3-year arc with all these other stories that are set up in the future that they're telling us about, that they're going to return to lore in, that they're going to remaster both Ravnica and Innistrad the next 2 years, and they confirm those things exist, that they're going to give us old borders of like all sorts of boomer exciting Ravnica stuff. The fact that you were ignoring that stuff is going on to kind of create this fake, shitty, disingenuous argument that Wizards aren't actually proud of their own IP is fucking annoying. There is a potential world where the IP crossovers are more profitable than Magic's existing IP, and Hasbro, as a corporate entity that needs to see the line go up, up, and up, might start to sideline and marginalize Magic's own IP in favor of just doing Universes Beyond. In some ways, it's realizing the initial idea for Deckmasters, right? That Magic was just one part of a larger ecosystem using the same card game. They have kind of managed it 30 years later. If and when Hasbro start to do that, I will shout from the rooftops that I think it's a bad idea. That I don't want to see the Planeswalkers and characters that we all love, Niv and Jace, get fucking sidelined. I don't want to see that. But at the moment, they aren't doing that. They're just doing both. And they're filling the release calendar with all sorts of crazy shit, and I'm here for it. Ultimately, this video is kind of positive about Wizards and quite negative about some of the shit that people spout on the internet. I really want to try and continue to be the voice of reason. I want to call them out when I think things are bollocks, and I want to praise when I think things are good. And honestly, the next 3 years of Magic has me excited. And I hope for the next 3 years, you watching this come along with me as we get excited. We'll criticize the pitfalls as we go, but we'll enjoy playing Magic together as we go. That could have not had the word "as we go" in it twice. It would have sounded a lot more interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed already and this is your first video here, smash that fucking sub button and become the sub, because I'm a dom. And I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.